the Bigger Pockets podcast website and watching their podcast, but this is local. This is what's happening here. This is completely relatable to the market that we are in, and super valuable resource to have. So we thought we would just bring them in and let them take over the whole show today. And you can get a feel for what their podcast is like. Ask all your real estate related questions. They'll have a format, but at the end, we're going to go over wants and needs. So if you have wants and needs as far as investing goes, hold those till the end. This is interactive, I'm sure. So they can ask you all questions. I can sit back and just hang out with everyone back here this time. So this will be fun. Have at it.
All right, welcome. I am Johnny Cascant. We have Raymond Pyramid, Shaka Williams. We are so sorry. There's something called Real Estate Podcast. So we're gonna open up with an icebreaker. I love icebreakers. Two truths and a lie. I'll get started. We'll have Reggie go. Shaka's still thinking of his, and then.
Are those the truths written down or the lie?
Two truths and a lie.
Yeah.
So for all three.
Yep. Yeah. And then, and whoever can guess which one is the lie, we have some nice giveaways. A couple of our classic tumblers to be worn. Whoever gets one of these,
lock in there or run?
That's the point. There's nothing to this. We normally have a nice little cocktail just to kind of
Break
the ice. However, it's 11 a.m. But whoever wins one,
5 o'clock somewhere.
you don't need cocktails. That's what this is for.
Right.
Okay. All right.
No water.
All right. So let me see. Two truths and a lie. I have 3 natural biological children, and they were all delivered naturally, natural childbirth. Next story. I learned how to drive a stick shift in Spain. And the third story, I was on an ATV. ATV lost control, ran down a hill, bumped into a boulder, and I landed into a cactus plant. Which one is the lie?
Cactus plant.
Cactus, yeah.
Stick shift.
Stick shift.
There it is.
3 kids.
You just gotta play the odds,
T-shirt and tumbler.
Good job. So why was it a lie though?
I only have one natural childbirth.
Because she
I'm
sounded convincing when she talked about that cactus plant.
I know.
Yeah, like
It
it still hurt.
Yeah, it does still hurt. It was a very traumatic experience. I've had 2 near-death experiences, and that was one of them. So.
All right. So mine is when I started in real estate, I was driving with a suspended license. The next one is what y'all write down? Okay. All right, and let me see. I have no feeling in the bottom of my right foot, and the third is I played small forward for Highland Park High School. Which one is the lie?
Can I ask this? I gotta stay on.
Foot.
Right foot. Well, I've seen you counseling, so I'm gonna go ahead and say you've got no training in here.
You've never had a suspended license.
You got the thing on.
It's the last one.
Which one is the last?
Football.
That's not
Yeah, the lie. So the lie is I didn't play. I joined it. I didn't play any high school ball. Everything else is true. When I started in real estate, my driver's license was suspended. My broker told me just meet all the clients at the house. Don't drive anybody.
Miss Williams.
Oh, okay. So mine is tough. Mine's gonna be pretty simple because I forgot about this. So mine is I have a 21-year-old. Elijah, you can't.
I'm out of it. I just want to tumble. That's all.
Justin didn't participate either. Unfortunately.
I've already got some for mine and running.
Yeah.
If anybody's seen the episode, it's very obvious.
I have a 21-year-old son that's in real estate. I'm a licensed builder. And I'm petrified of public speaking.
Breathe the lie. Breathe the lie.
Public speaking.
21-year-old son. Yeah.
Public speaking,
Yeah.
yes.
So who won that?
That's the lie.
The
No, I'm sorry.
No, that lie.
lie.
See, I'm sorry. Did you start
Oh,
looking
no,
at?
no.
Oh,
No, the lie is that I'm not actually a licensed builder. My company is licensed.
okay. All right. So who won that?
I picked over.
Okay.
So we are licensed and insured, so you know. I'm just not the licensed.
All right, so just to let you guys know, this is exactly how our show is. It's not rehearsed, and we just kind of wing it, so he didn't even know which lie about himself. All right, so we're gonna talk about some real estate today. So we want to talk first about finding deals, and Janita has a unique talent that me and Shaka doesn't have. I think she has a little bit more vision. Me and Shaka are a little bit more conservative, but whatever she does works. And I'm like, how the hell did you put that deal together? And so tell us how you are finding some of your deals.
So, believe it or not, most of my deals come from the MLS. I don't, I've just gotten into, messing with wholesalers a little bit, but most of the time I jump online, I search areas that I like or that I believe are up and coming. And then there's probably some property sitting there that's just sitting there and no one is paying it any attention. And so then I kind of hone in on it and do my numbers, do my due diligence, and then I wait a little bit, and then I start submitting offers. So we're not talking about I'm sure you guys have listed a property before, maybe some of your own fix and flips, and you get an offer within 30 minutes of it being on the market, and it's like $30,000 or $40,000 less than what you're asking, and you're like, are you serious? This is not that. This is it's been on the market for a few months already.
But
Right.
you never get it for $30,000, $40,000 less than,
Yeah.
the offer that I'm like, there's no way they're gonna sell it off.
Mm-hmm. And then, I don't know. So I have a vision in terms of I had gotten away from Detroit right after the recession. So, doing things more in the suburbs, so probably more downriver. But then, probably around 2014-ish, I started looking back at Detroit and I started looking into some of the areas that were always historically nice. So your Rosedale Park, your Grandmont subdivision, University District, Bagley, everything that people right now are paying $200,000 plus for. I'm going over there and I'm like, this stuff, you have to be able to have a vision. And I think that's why I like knowing the area. So I'm not sure how successful I would be at this in another state. Because a lot of my, I think, success has been, I know the area and I've been driving around Michigan since I was 10 years old with my mother. So I have a real, kind of keen insight on what's happening in different areas in Southeast Michigan.
So one of the things about Janita, when we're analyzing some properties, I'm looking at the numbers, whatever the comp says, what it is, we may give or take 5 to 10,000 or so. She's throwing the ball so far ahead. It's I know you're going to be there when the ball lands, right? So her pricing, we talk about pricing a lot, and I'm I just don't see it. But she sees it and it works. It's scary to me because I'm if the market shifts, I don't want to get caught in the downturn, but it's been working.
So I'm planning for it to shift the other way. So my rule of thumb is 65% of what I believe the ARV is. And then I like to be in a space where we're still coming up. So I may go to Shaka and say, we can't lose at this number. And then when I go and say, we can't lose at this number, he's like, okay, let's do it then. But then I'll come back and say, but we need to be trying for this number. So when we get ready to put the house on the market, so right now we got a couple that we're gonna get ready to list here next coming week. So, now we have to go back and we need to see what has changed since we originally purchased the property. So we purchased the property at one place, expecting the ARV to be this number. But a lot of times we're probably about 20% higher than what our expected ARV was at the time.
Just unique because I'm not from Detroit at all. I don't know anything about Detroit. So it took me years. So I met her in 2017. So it took years of me dealing with her to realize that she knew what she was doing. Like she is kind of a visionary in Detroit.
Where are you from?
I'm from Pontiac. I'm from Ann Arbor. I moved to Pontiac in my late elementary.
Okay, so you're from Michigan.
Yes. Oh yeah. I'm just not. Don't know anything about Detroit. Like even still right now.
We'll be saying neighborhoods, and he's like, where? Then we have to say the mile roads, like.
Yeah, so I got the basics, But yeah, so we missed out on a lot of money because I was scared to follow some of her tactics.
Yeah, because some of it is, I can imagine it's hard to see. So are you guys like familiar with the North End area? So that's gonna be like Midtown, basically. So Oakland, just outside of Highland Park, or even Highland Park for that matter. We just got our first one in Highland Park. Because those are scary areas. If you've been from here and you're riding through there over the last 20 years or 40 years,
Right.
it's probably like, but there's been a lot of change, there's been a lot of growth, and things cannot just continue to be a certain way. And that is, kind of like, so when prices were really low over there, which was, probably about 4-5 years ago, I'm like, we need to buy land. We need to buy property. I'm like, John, grab from the board. Like, look, Ferndale is here. Jefferson is there. We need property here. And everybody's like, he's crazy? Hell, not gonna happen.
And one thing about that, because with me being from Highland Park, I always look at it, the houses are just so big, you have to be able to buy and you have to be able to afford to hold those properties. Most people can't hold them because the ARV didn't make sense for you to buy it and possibly pull your money back out. No lender was loaning over there, 5 years ago, because all the values were under 50 and 60,000. So you buy this house for 10 or 15, you still got to put 40 into it. So you're basically all cash in and buying and holding and speculating at that point. I think when did you get that Lacoon house?
About a year and a half. It's been over a year.
So we started seeing the values 150, 160. Now everything is 200 and up for those homes.
Mm-hmm.
But
So like, that's a good one. Anybody got a calculator?
Tim has one. That's
Yeah.
the tech guy.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we closed. So what is 65% of? What's lower than that? Probably 190.
That was at the time we brought it. All right.
193.
It's 123.5.
Okay, so we paid 85,000 for the house.
Oh, wow.
85. We do this every time with this one. And I have to go pull documents to show you.
No, well, we purchased it for 65. 65, but maybe
Y'all want me to
our
pull up
financing.
That was a while ago.
So what it was it was a seven. So that was my first time buying from a wholesaler. They had it under contract for 75. I wanted it for 75. They wanted, but I don't. One thing we don't do, especially with our people. So like if Tim came to me and said, I have this deal, I'm not gonna haggle him on his money. Either we can do it or we can't do it. And in that particular situation, we could do it. And then I have to be able to know, okay, well, how much do we actually need to put into this property? And so I was going in there thinking like, okay, we're gonna do some minor cleanup, paint the rooms and throw it back on the market. But then when I got over there, once we purchased the property, the whole back of the house was off of it.
Not my fault.
So, however,
It was there when I started.
the main point though is where the address is 60 McLean. Does anyone know by any chance like the area or what's happening over there right now? So I'll give you some clues. The house is like 3 or 4 doors off Woodward.
But it's still scary. It doesn't look like.
So McLean is one of the historic blocks in Highland Park, in south of Davidson. Highland Park is unique. It's only like 2.5 miles long, 2.5 miles wide. So, but this side is like the historic side. But once you cross the other side, it's like night and day, right? There's like an old burnt out abandoned apartment building right on the corner of Woodward. That's probably gonna get torn down on the next.
Yeah, that was a beautiful building.
Yeah, at one point in time.
But where are the values now? They're at like 250. That's the point.
Now,
For Highland Park.
Yep.
what are the criteria if you're speculating? Are you looking at developments within a certain radius, activity, commercial activity? How do you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
what are your-
you can get deep into the planning, so like Highland Park, certain things for the north end, Jefferson and Connor, like they all have development plans. I don't get into that. I get into simply where are we at? You know what, we're right at downtown. I can get in my car, go south, and be at the Riverwalk in 10 minutes. That's what I'm looking at.
That's the common sense approach right there.
Exactly. So, you know, you just gotta have a little bit of, you know, kind of like intuition as to, you know, what you're buying. And then like the specs on the house. So our square footage is probably about 2,000-ish, give or take.
How much do you
For
have
bedrooms.
for rehab altogether?
We're gonna be around like 65.
Right. Is that your cost or is that what you would have charged somebody
That's
else?
my cost.
Okay. And that's the other difference too, because like, I'm looking at that project and I'm like, I wouldn't have touched that project at all, right? Not at that time, but because I don't have the convenience of having a partner that's a contractor. Well, I probably do not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a difference. So, and then you have to think like, she threw the ball because she knew Boston Edison people were getting priced out. They started buying North End. They're like, why would I pay 400 when I can go over here and get 600 square feet less for half the price, you know, and develop it. And then that growth is filling up, is coming north towards Highland Park. And that was, when you brought that in 2018?
20.
20? Okay.
The end of 20, like November of 20.
Okay, it seemed like 2000.
It wasn't on.
Yeah, it wasn't that, so, yeah, I guess, so what do we hit on here? That is, you know, kind of knowing your area, understanding your market, you know, trying to have some math, you know, to make sense of it, some logical sense of it. And then what Reggie just hit on, for me personally, I couldn't get back into fix and flipping until I knew I had a partner who could support the general contracting end. So I was probably from about 2003 until about 2007, GCN myself. I just didn't know that's what I was doing. I was hiring contractors. I was at the job sites every day, talking to people, trying not to be a certain way, and, you know, just a whole bunch of stuff that I just realized probably at the point of me meeting him, like, no, it was probably my business partner right before him. I just realized like that's not what I want to do. I want to find the deals, and I want to make sure they sell, we can make a good profit, and go on from there. I need someone else to deal with the stuff that Shaka deals with, so you can talk about that as a contractor, because I don't do that.
Stuff that I do. I don't feel like, I don't feel like I'm at work, so it's different for me. Yeah. So I started off as an investor as well. So that knew nothing about construction, just the numbers. Until the market crashed and I had to start learning about the numbers, right? Start understanding what I was paying for as opposed to just making the numbers match, right? So I don't know what you mean. Like,
So I'll give you, for instance, so my house, my personal house that I just moved into, one, if it wasn't him on a project, I would be having an aneurysm right now because my work isn't done. But I understand why my work isn't done, because it's also my business partner, so I have to give grace there because we have other things going on. And it's not, it's minute items, but, you know, deep into that project, you know, we're talking about an 1840s house, 3,000 square feet, radiators, you know, heat conversions, new roof,
right.
those windows. I mean, like, when they started going, because a lot of times we look at these projects and someone's maybe is already living there, so you're like, okay, the walls are here, it's standing, we can come in here and do this, do some flooring. But when the people moved out, we got to like pulling down walls and demoing things. And like for me, I don't know that my house would have even made it through the drywall phase. You know what I mean? Because people get tired. The contractors don't want to do the job after a certain point.
But I think that, so with the contractors, I think a lot of times they don't know what they're getting into. They haven't done it before. So luckily for us, I've done this for a long time. So I wouldn't have taken on that project if we didn't know what we were doing. Some contractors, it is a monumental task. One other caveat though, and this is what Reggie doesn't like. And flips are not that's not our primary income. So construction is. So I do flips in between construction projects. So that's why, it may take us longer to get some of these projects done.
And you brought the Highland Park house in 2020,
Yeah.
that would kill me.
No,
I just don't.
Yeah.
If I want to be in and out of a flip, like maybe 3 or 4 months, I want to have it back on the market.
And
So
then,
does that affect your bottom line? I mean, talking about that, you did say you bought that house in 2020 on the plane. That give me palpitations.
so it's been helping our bottom line because everything's been increasing, right? The prices have been increasing. So we had this project in Highland Park under contract for about 4 months at $250. She says it's at $250.
Yeah.
The numbers over there are like $270 now.
Yeah.
So she's buying into equity now.
Nice.
At this point.
The buyer.
That would lessen my palpitations.
Yeah. But no, so we have an understanding. So when we went into this, because I had stopped flipping, flipping was not as exciting for me anymore. So, and it didn't make any sense to flip to make the money I make off of the construction. So, no, it doesn't hurt our bottom line at all.
Do you guys hold any properties?
Nah, we don't have any together.
Well, we did have one together, but we just sold that. So that's another great one to talk about. That's the Stansberry.
People steal his property. He just got property sitting around. People come back like, I brought this house from such and such. So,
Yeah, it's the podcast. I heard some of the horror stories.
Oh,
Detroit.
yeah.
It is Detroit thing for me.
So that is learn your people. Build a relationship with, contractor. And also if you can build some good relationships with your lenders or your private lenders that are working in the area. So the next deal that we have currently going on is another little property in Detroit, and that came from one of my lenders. He called and he's like, "You want this?" And I'm like, let's see. So I went over, took a look at it, and I talked to Reggie about it. I talked to Shaka about it. They both were like, Johnny gonna go again to one of these houses. And I was like, I'm gonna buy it and forget them or whatever. And so then I asked Shaka, can you just go put a door on the house? And he's like, I'll send somebody over there tomorrow. And I'm like, okay. So I still don't have a door on this house, by the way. So I put the house on the market. You know what? I'm not dealing with the house, but I wanted to keep it. Cash flow it, Airbnb, who knows, whatever. But I put the house on the market. I bought the house for $38,000. I listed it for $49,000. I think I ended at an offer of $60,000 or $61,000.
38, I thought.
38. Wow, I had to put money down.
Oh.
That was
Oh.
so my purchase price was $38,000.
Okay.
so you bought that using a private lender?
Yeah.
All right.
So I had the property since December. So bought it at 38, sold it at 60.
As is?
Yep.
Mhm.
I didn't touch it.
Actually,
I just bought it and put it on the market.
so I had to match the offer because so when she finally put it on the market, I got to seeing her offers come in. I'm like, what did I do?
He felt like how you guys put a hot property on the market and then you started getting like all these calls. He's on my phone and I'm like, why is he calling me? He's like, I am gonna buy that house. So,
But you didn't want to buy it at first, though, right?
I didn't. I didn't have time. We were busy. You know what I mean? So I didn't have time. It was the ARV on that is like 115, right? Even 120. I'm going. I think it's gonna be higher though. So I'm hoping.
it's probably right around there. It's about 120. So that's another Detroit property. That's going to be your Grove and That's between Pearson and Grove, so that's just south of 6 Mile. Yep. So you're right by Grace Hospital. Well, so the point for that area is not gonna be like, oh, it's this big old historical house. So now buyers need affordable housing. They need solid houses with good bones, brick, that have places that they put their kitchen table and 3 bedrooms for their children. They need these houses. And so these areas, if you go over there now, right where this house is, there are no vacancies, there are no burnouts. This house is the only vacant house on the block. And once that gets fixed up and there's a family there, you're in a stable community.
So, like with your private money loan, how does that financing? How is it structured? Because you're doing two different. You got two different private money.
Yeah, we have 3. At this point, so I don't know. I honestly don't know because you get to the point, so if you build a good, they just give you money. So
They know it's good, right?
One of them sounds like a loan shark.
oh yeah, that's Campbell's.
Well, we had 2 of them on the podcast.
Yeah. Well, one part, you have some people money that costs a lot. So one of my lenders, he does like 2 points and 12%, and he also doesn't charge interest payments monthly. I have one lender who likes to charge the interest payments, but he falls just a little bit above that 2.12%. He's probably more at like 14.99%, probably no points.
So
Yeah.
just dive into that for a second. So 2 points up front to secure the money,
Mm-hmm.
and then 12% on the back end as a balloon payment,
Mm-hmm.
with nothing in it.
But when you do the math, you have to add 2 points in there, so the 12% is charged on the money plus the points.
Right.
Yeah.
It almost looks predatory when you see it at first, but it's not.
In
But
Michigan
it's
now,
not-
it's
it's not
5%.
these
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like 24.9.
Yeah. That's
So it's not predatory, it's something that you can get somewhere else, right? You couldn't have that money otherwise,
yeah.
right?
And you can still make money off of somebody else's money. Right?
So the case, the first deal I did, I did 25%.
Mhm.
I still made money, he made money, everyone's happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was just understanding, because understanding the flow of the money, that you pay 2%, or 2 points up front,
Mm-hmm.
then you get the money, and then you pay 12% on the balance of everything at the end of it.
No.
And you pay off the loan.
So on this particular lender, so that's more like our other lender.
12% on the balance and 2%.
You know,
Plus
plus
2%.
on this one is different. So they want
it all, yeah.
No, that's not how it is though. So they want this guy. Who you talking about? John?
Yeah, he doesn't charge anything up front.
Yeah. So he charged. There's no upfront fees. Actually, none of them charge their money up front. John, the one that she's talking about, there is nothing.
There's nothing up front on that
Because
one.
you added it.
Everything's
Oh,
on that.
wow.
Yeah, everything's on
The other lender, that's more like Marquis. His is more like what Justin's talking about. So he sends out a nice loan estimate. It was just a little Word doc with his bullet points. And you have to pay some closing costs. So that's why the Stansberry house, we owe 32 on it, or I owe 32 on it, and but I paid 38 plus my costs.
So his would be the scenario that you're
Yeah.
right. So he wants some of his money up front, plus your skin in the game up front,
Mm-hmm.
and then he gets the rest of his money on the back.
Yeah.
And so the difference with the thing with the private money lenders, first of all, you usually find them like at real estate meetups.
Yep.
And then which one was doing it?
The MREA. That's MR.
So John is loaning through his self-directed IRA account. So he's loaning the money. He's making more money off of loaning the money than he would in the stock market. It's a little bit, well, it's not necessarily riskier because he's got the collateral.
Correct.
Mhm.
But he's also investing other people's money
Yeah.
for them. So when you find these people, they actually need to loan out the money so that they can make money. So it's like, you hear it all the time. People have money problems. They just need to know how to give it away and get it back with interest. So you just have to meet up, and these private money lenders are out there. The thing is, I know John mentioned that there's a little bit of a difference with someone that has experience in a relationship versus a newbie. So you have to show that you have either some experience or you have to bring a little bit more skin to in the game and put it on the table. So But private money lending is good, especially if you're only doing it short term. I don't know about 2 years, but 6 months.
No, so we just did our first so I'm thinking, so you have to find your niche too. So what do you like? What feels good to you? The transactional funding, I think, we just did that for the first time and did, yeah.
So you gotta explain transactional funding. Gap funding? for
Yeah,
example?
and not transactional, gap funding pretty much, right?
Right.
Well, it was transactional because it was only for what, 60 days, maybe?
All the time about we did.
So you have,
So we just did our first funding deal.
She's talking about us actually lending, me and her lending the money, not people lending the money to us.
Are y'all loaning money?
Yeah. So.
Last you know, Reggie, sorry.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so you talking about something different.
Yeah. But I was just saying, there are different ways to invest in real estate. So he was talking about that one particular lender, how he gets his group together and they go into their self-directed IRAs and they pool money. And it makes sense to them because they're earning more money with it outside of those mutual funds or whatever they're in.
And as an investor for me, so we do have our own money, but I'm very big on not spending any of my money. So,
Other people's money.
yeah, other people's money. So we have the one investor, actually the one I like the best. I like Kelly the best.
Yeah.
Even though he charges the most, he's the easiest to deal with. We can call him today and he could probably have us the money by Friday.
So are you making up your offers as cash offers?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, based on our relationship with them.
Yeah. So you don't want, so then that was another thing, like, I don't know if any of you guys use hard money. So when I was getting back into it, I started looking at like Lending Home and Do Hard Money. And when I looked at Do Hard Money's program and I read their contract, I quickly told them to F off because they have things in their agreement that if you're not paying attention and you sign off on it, like, and I remember because the contract was so long ago at this point, but it just made me go, okay, I still need private money, like people that I can touch and call and see and speak to. Because some of the other companies, they promise you certain things. So they're running your credit, they're making you spend money on appraisals and inspections and like all these things. And then they're coming back and they're saying, oh no, it doesn't fit our program.
Yeah, like one hard money lender, they had the buyer get the offer accepted and everything, then they said they don't do loans in Detroit. Or they don't tell you up front they don't want to do a loan under a certain loan amount.
And like you spend $800.
Can we go a little deeper into how you're finding these people and how you're building these relationships?
No, that's
Because
real
I
easy.
think that most people in here probably have the sticking block of I can find a deal, but I need the money. Even though it's really the other way around. 'Cause I'm not
Yeah.
sure where. So, but can we talk a little bit more about how you're finding those relationships, how you're cultivating those relationships, what you had to do to get to a point of being able to borrow money at 12%, where you had to start, what the conversations look like when you've maybe not got your track record, and how you can get into relationships with these people. That might be useful.
So it's real easy for me because Janita does all that work.
Let's get to know Janita.
It's a real thing. We have people that are trying to get into the business and they come and they say, well, how do I get the money? And I'm like, just send me the deal. And then they be like, well, how do I get the money? Just send me the deal. I'll make sure you get funded. But they, so that's often the conversation that I've been having. So you have to be able to, if you want the funding, you have to connect to the funding.
Yeah. But to find people direct, just go to the meetups. And they're always there because they have to loan the money, right? That's how, some of them make their living, some of it, that's their retirement, right? Loaning money. So when you go to these meetups and you network, you ask other investors, who are you borrowing your money from? And sometimes you may find a private money lender that may not necessarily loan you the money, but they may say, okay, partner with somebody that has some experience, right? And then we'll loan the money to both of you and you work the deal out together, just to put some training wheels on it pretty much.
What
But you
meetups
can
are
get
you
on-
going to?
Sorry?
I said, what meetups are you going to? You said go to the meetups and find.
One of the good ones, go to the MRIE meetings.
Yeah,
they have Wendy Patton.
Yeah.
Shit, I mean, a lot of these, huh?
MREI.
MREI, sorry. Yeah, that's a really good one. A lot of these people are sitting in the room and they're, waiting to build relationships and give you money. Some of the, I don't mess around in the Facebook groups. One of our admins are here, Marlon, he likes to be in the Facebook groups talking and, that for some reason that scares me. I don't know why, but I don't like being in the groups. But some people really flourish in the groups. They find deals, they find partners, they find money. And one of our lenders that we currently use, he messaged me, "Hey, you want some money?" And I'm like, "This can't be real." Like, sure, I'll take your money.
Like Justin said, once you get good at finding deals, the money will start
There it
following
is.
you around.
That's the answer.
You focus on the deal. I guarantee you walk in this office tomorrow with a 3-bedroom brick home and roll up, and you say you got it selling on $70,000 for a Ford. You'll find money. Right.
Yeah, we're all there.
Yeah.
And if nobody has 70,000 individually, somebody will get together.
But also, some of you, how many people, who's flipped houses here in the room? Anybody? No? Huh? Okay. But then how long have you been here so far?
I haven't flipped houses here.
Okay. So the reason why I asked the question, because I was trying to go back and to figure out how did I get the first person that I thought was going to be a good lender. And that came because I was Googling, this is like right after the Duke hard money thing. And then I was like Googling people in the area. And then I contacted one guy and he was like, "Oh, we don't do hard money deals anymore." So I like retracked where I was at before the recession. And they were like, "Oh, we don't do hard money deals anymore. We're now buying houses in Royal Oak and Birmingham, pulling the tops off of them and building them up." That's what he was doing at the time. But he's like, "Oh, call this guy." And so then I called that guy and started talking to him. I probably talked to him over like a year or two before I really felt comfortable with getting back out into the market. And I was like, okay, I called him. All right, got my plan. I know what I want to do. Got my partner. Let's get together. And then from there, all the other funding, because then I needed to find more money outside of that person as well. So.
Ask some grandparents or some
Yeah.
people in your family. If they trust you, they'll loan, especially if you present it right. It's all about presentation. It's really a business plan for the property. If you present it, somebody will give you some money.
Take that 2-point deal.
It's
I'll give
easy,
you 2
though.
points and 12%.
I just want to say this.
What is the point? What's the value of the point? Like how much-
2%.
Every point is a percent.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But that's easy. So everybody, it's not that difficult. If you have a good deal, then you can't go because Marcus in the
Yeah.
he's heavy in it. So it's literally just have a good deal. But I'm gonna explain to them how you can make the money without using your money. So most of them want you to have some skin in the game, right? At least 10%. So we might use Mark wants more. So we only use Mark. But Kelly and John doesn't care about anything because he's got Kelly, who I like the most, is the easiest to deal with because he's a common sense lender, right? If it makes sense numbers wise, then he's going to lend money, right? So he will lend 90% of the purchase price. So now you got to come up with your 10% of the purchase price. Right? He'll lend 90% of the purchase price and 100% of the rehab in draws.
What's his number?
Well, here's the negative. So although he'll do that, he won't do that with everybody. That's what Reggie's explaining and what she's explaining. Everybody won't be able to just call Kelly and make that happen. But once you get, so that's why Janita is saying call her. You call her, maybe you guys partner up on the deal. Now you have that relationship. So that's what happened with us.
No, I mean, so then that's the other thing. So you have to be able to talk and meet people. I met that lender from being at a closing, and he's like a jolly person, like, you know, how like to have fun. And I'm like, oh man, he likes to have fun. And so after the closing, I asked the person I said, would you mind if I approach him and just ask him about, you know, fun? And he said, no problem. So I kind of ran up the hallway and called him. And I'm like, I just want to introduce myself. And he's like, yeah, let's work. So.
But so then you got that 10%, right? That you have to bring to the deal. That's where John comes, the gap funder comes in. He will lend you the 10%. So now you're no money, and you got to put some money in there first for your rehab, but you're getting that money right back in the draws. So that's how you make money off of no money, basically, or spending none of your money.
And when you're doing a rehab, most lenders, so in order to get your rehab money, you still have to have some upfront money, maybe your deposit with the contractor to get some work going, because they're just not gonna give you, if it's an $80,000 project, they're not just gonna give you 80,000 or 30,000 or whatever upfront for that. They're gonna wanna see some progress. So if it's 20% done, then you call them out, they inspect, they'll lose 20% of it back to you. So you have to have that relationship with a contractor to say, hey, can I give you 5,000 and go as far as you can, or 10,000? But you're gonna get paid because the money is sitting there waiting for you to complete something, right? So that's how that's gonna work. So you're still gonna need some money, but the initial purchase and acquisition, you can get in with private money or hard money and a gap funder. So,
But I think that it's just having all of the pieces of your puzzle, because if you look at the whole scenario, I don't spend money on rehab because I have a business partner who's a general contractor. I don't use any of my money because other people give me theirs because of my connection with my general contractor and my ability to find deals that actually work. So when I present them a deal, most of the time they like them, sometimes they don't, but I'll still be like, give me the money anyways. So, what do we miss?
Well, so I hear a lot of good things about hard money. What are some of the cons? Like, what are some red flags?
Oh,
things that could be
for you. So, cause it was on the top of my mind, so I'm glad you brought that up. I'm gonna let Shaka answer that question, but the point I wanted to make is when you go into using other people's money, you have to kind of have a perspective of like, yo, this is my third or fourth partner. Because if you don't have that mindset, then you're gonna be like, look at all my money, go away.
and then too, like most hard money lenders, they're only gonna loan a certain percentage of the value, right? Maybe 70%, 75, 65. And sometimes what they're loaning, you just may not get the deal done. But really, for a beginning investor, the hard money lender is kind of like your safety net, because they're loaning you money based on being successful. So they're not going to allow you to buy a property, overpay for a property that's not going to work, because they're only loaning you so much anyway. Like one of the lenders I use, they're going to do an appraisal. I have to put some skin in the game, and they're only loaning 70 to 75% of the ARV. So they're not loaning me money in a way that I can fail pretty much. Most of my deals, like she did her deal, I could buy it and probably sell it the next day for a profit, and the way I'm going with it. So it's not structured for you to fail. The only way you can really go bad with private money and rehab is having a bad contractor that ran off with some of the money, or they don't do the quality of work. So maybe it looks finished, it looks good, but once you get to inspections and permits, nothing's passing, and you've already paid that money out from a loan that you took out, and that can really hurt you. So contractors are a huge piece.
I'm speaking of contractors here. So other people do that. They don't do their due diligence. So they're bringing, the contractor is, so this is why I like contractors, as opposed to flipping. I come in there, I do my work, I get paid. I don't care if you didn't budget the proper amount for your rehab. I don't care if how much you sell it for. If it doesn't sell, how long it stays on the market, that's not my problem, right? And a lot of newbie investors want that to be your issue, right? But it's not. I came in there, I agreed that I would do X, Y, Z at this price. You didn't take into consideration that there were contingencies, and now you're upside down, or you're about to lose, or it's taking longer than you expected. That's your problem, right? So outside of it, so bad contractors is one way, but also not understanding this. It's not for everybody. You know what I mean? You do have to do some due diligence. We're working on a book for that right now. Right?
Yeah.
So you have to do your due diligence as well. As far as your question, to answer your question, the only negative for me is that they eat a lot of your profit. You know, so they can take up to, like 25% of your profit.
Yeah, but that's profit you wouldn't have had without them.
Agreed.
Right.
But
And you have to validate yourself to get the better deals, to get the better financial deals. You're not going to get money, you're not going to get private money at 10, 12% until you've got a track record. And so you basically buy the track record. It's kind of like a sales agent getting uppity about paying a referral fee for a warm handoff lead. Well, you didn't do the work that created the warm handoff lead. Someone's going to get paid for that. And that also helps you to build your business. And so the negative private money is expensive, but you use private money to get to a position to get cheaper money, to get a relationship with a portfolio in order to prove the concept. And ultimately, that 25%, if you hold it for long enough, you get that back in spades anyway, so it doesn't matter.
And for me, like you just said, so in my mind, it's 100% profit, right? But it's the same thing as somebody investing in Zillow or Realtor.com. It's the same thing, right?
Well,
Just don't count
it's-
other people's money.
the
That's the thing.
The difference in Zillow and Realtor.com is if you're buying a zip code, you're paying money up front. What you're talking about is more than 100% profit because it's infinite, because you've got zero in.
Sure.
So I mean, at that point, if I can do a little bit of work and oversee something and make 10 grand with nothing coming out of my pocket, or if I can take all of the financial risk and stump it all up and have to earn the money to be able to go buy the property and then I make 25 grand profit, well, I'd rather do the 10 grand rinse and repeat all the time because I can do that outside of my own work.
And that's what everybody can't get to. They can't, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, it's a numbers game. You have to look at the cash on cash return when you're looking at these deals. And you have to see what is your time worth too, because it is time consuming as well. So some deals are just not gonna make sense for you, but it may make sense for somebody else.
But IPM is infinitely scalable.
Right.
It's infinitely scalable. I mean, you can have 18 projects going at once, making 10 grand on each one, or you can have the one that you can afford to do with all your eggs in one basket. It's infinitely scalable.
Yeah.
And somewhere, I mean, out of all the buyers we work with or investors, some of them are actually loaning money. You just never had that conversation. Not everybody that's investing in real estate actually wants to buy and flip or buy and have rental property. They want to loan money. They just haven't had a conversation. Maybe you invite them to a meetup and introduce them to a private money lender so that they can learn how to structure these deals and maybe they become one of your lenders someday.
And as realtors, though, I think that, I mean, so like for me, so like Shaka says, like this like the last thing he does, but I'm just teasing. But I've always looked at it as money on my year. So, okay, if I want to make X, amount of money per year, how many flips do I need to do? Or at least have, on the table. And the other thing, it allows you to be able to sustain in this profession. It allows you to create opportunities for your clients. Even, your traditional homeowners, like, if you're in the fix and flips and you can find something, because like we're coming into a different market. We don't really know what we're going to have to do in whatever the shift is. You may have to have a house for this person that you created the deal for. Oh, you want the beautiful house? Well, you have this, because I'm sure you guys get buyers all the time to ask the question, well, I've been approved for $200,000. This house costs $135,000, but we love it that much. Can we just pay the $200,000? No, because the lender's not going to loan you all that. However, if it's a fixer-upper, they might, because now you can do a 203K loan. If you got a contractor, if you've been doing flips, like it's just a way to create sustainability in the industry altogether, to me.
Or you find a buyer, somebody's trying to buy a house from their friend or relative, and the house is just shabby. They can't get a loan on it. You come in and you say, at this price I'll buy it, fix it up, but this is the price I'll sell it to you at. Right?
Yeah.
So it's profit there. We have to start creating deals that are not just sitting there in our face. We have to find out other ways to make deals happen. That's like, I think KW has the concierge service where they're actually loaning sellers money to fix their house up so that they can sell it. But not all sellers want to do that. They'll take the discount off the sales price. They'll sell it as is. They'll allow somebody else to fix it up and sell it for a profit.
That's a great program, just to piggyback on that. I actually got certified with that program. I had a listing appointment I went on the other day. It's an older gentleman. His wife passed away 2 years ago. I don't think the house has been cleaned since she passed. It needs more, to be sure, but it's mostly paint and carpet, probably update some bathrooms. But I tiered it out where I thought, if we do this, you'll get that. If we do this, you'll get that, and did like a 5-tier system. And then I sent him the color concierge stuff afterwards, the information on that program. He's like, I didn't know I could do this. I'm like, I couldn't offer this until like today. It was like yesterday I got certified. So I mean, that's a great program too, just as agents, a little side there. But
What do you mean you got certified?
there's a little certification program that you go through with Keller Concierge, the Keller Offers platform.
So that you're allowed to offer that
So you,
program?
so you can offer that program, and it's ready to stay, ready to sell. There's different programs you can offer your clients, and it's a 0% down loan for 12 months. So essentially, they can pay at closing for those things, for those repairs that they do in renovations to increase the marketability of their home, or they can do they have a ready to stay program for, kind of the love it or list it theme. I mean, people, that want to stay in the house after they renovate, they convert that loan to a more traditional loan, which is, again, a reduced rate, but not 0% in that pay at closing. Obviously, if they decide they just want to do these projects and stay in the home, you can still offer the program, but there is interest rate attached to that one. But it's $1,000 to $75,000 in project costs, and they arrange everything like the concierge service. So, it's a great program for agents to use. So.
That's very good.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Any questions on any? Yep.
So when you guys are looking for your deals, how do you, first, like when you're doing your comp for the deals, you have to add anything in there if you plan on using the hard money lender? Like, how do you come up with what you need? Like,
He can't late, did he?
Well, he's trying to,
It's like-
so he works with us, I said, he's trying to get into this realm, and he's got a perfect opportunity to get the answers to his question, I guess. You want to take that?
Yeah. No, you can.
So yes, we have to, when you're doing your cost analysis, you need to put in all your expenses. So that's one of your expenses.
So that's gonna be the percentage of the ARV.
Yeah, so I look at the ARV first, right? And I say, okay, this is my max. Now I may sell on the market a little higher. I'm not concerned about that. This is my max potential, what I can sell it for. Then I back out all the estimated renovation costs. Then I put a little cushion in there, maybe 5 or 10% for mess ups and things of that nature. Then I factor in what are my holding costs gonna be? What is it gonna cost me for utilities, lawn maintenance, monthly payments and everything? Then I determine my sales price from there. Because really if you buy it right, that's how you're making your money, right? And I don't have anything that I buy that I can't sell the next day at a profit. And I mean, I'm not saying a huge profit, but if I bought it for 65, I should be able to put it on the market next week for 75 or 80, right? So I'm always building that cushion in, and then that's how I determine what I'm going to offer. And I'm not emotionally attached to the property. So some people, we got highest and best, we got multiple offers. Well, my number is 75.
Yep.
I don't care, because you'll get.
I thought you was a lot with that.
Yeah, somebody will be like, well, we're at 78. It's only 3 more thousand. Well, only 3 more turns into 10, then it turns into 15, and so on and so forth. And you're borrowing money at 12% or whatever the case may be. Next thing you know, you're 20 or 25,000 over budget. So always start with the ARV, back out your costs, and then consider your holding costs. A lot of people don't factor in your holding costs for those 3 or 6 months they're on the property. And you got to know your exit strategy. So if you're going to burn a project, you're going to have a little bit more of a cushion when it comes to loan to value, because you're not looking for an immediate profit. Your goal is to refinance a certain portion of the money out, a certain amount of the equity to put back into another deal.
Go high on your expenses, lower your ARV.
Yeah.
If it works that way, then you'll be good. If you have to make it fit, then it's probably not a good deal.
Yeah, you want to be conservative on your ARV numbers, and you want to be really think about your expenses, because everything costs more. Like, what is it costing compared to last year for like materials?
Like
Like wood, I think you said wood went up.
Yeah, drywall, everything.
Yeah,
But the wood is like crazy. Like, used to be able to get a sheet of plywood for like $18. It's like $58 now.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
And I had an HVAC guy give me a bid. He said it's only good for 72 hours.
literally.
Like after that, he was like, I can't guarantee what the cost was gonna be.
But these are also things to talk to.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. I gave a bid on a job in Novi, a studio, a build out, self studio. And we did it based on the cost of material then. The studs were like $11 then. Now they're like $26. Yeah. So when she came back, 2 months later, it was more than double.
That's gonna be important for you guys, the clients that are looking for like new constructions, helping them to understand when the builder is telling them that, you know, because the builders are building that into their contract too. Like, we can't tell you what the final cost is gonna be because the cost of lumber and materials, and the buyers are like, what do you mean the cost of lumber? You know, you got that sitting in the closet somewhere. And I'm like, no, it's a real thing that's happening. Like, the inflation is crazy.
Let me tell you something. They explained it to me this way. So when he gave me the initial bid for the studs, they had purchased it at a certain number, certain cost, so they could have sold it to me at a certain cost. But now that wood is gone. Now the new wood come in at a different cost, so now they got to sell it to me at a higher cost. So that's how it is.
That's absolutely true about new construction too, because we had a deal we were about to cut with Pulte, and it went up $35,000 in only 3 days.
Yeah.
From the time he talked to his wife and came back to sign the contract, it was 35 grand more.
Oh.
So, what is one cost that you guys have been surprised by, that you didn't factor in when you were doing your cost analysis?
No.
I imagine everything.
I'll throw one out there that I can think of, and it may not necessarily, so in Detroit, blight is not necessarily an old thing. It's kind of a new thing. And then also the escrow that some title companies will hold for those properties when you're getting ready to sell. You know, I've been in a situation with myself and with a seller where a title company held back $5,000 because they didn't have the final water read.
And I have, like, when you talk about blight, so when you're renovating a project, like I'm big on, like, we got a house and the guy would like demo the property and set everything in the driveway, and then like the city would come by and issue you a ticket. So I have an understanding most of the time in my contract with my contractors, if they're cause for any blight notices or fines, they have to pay them. So you can't just, I need you to have a dumpster or a trailer or something. You can't just sit this stuff out front, then I'm getting a $1,500 ticket, because what I'm gonna pay you with?
So I want to piggyback on that. So as a contractor, I always keep a 30-yard dumpster, but that's gonna go into your price. So that's why I charge more than, I'm not the most investor-friendly contractor in terms of pricing, but you're not gonna run into issues like that.
Right.
And I will also say, when you have, so with Shaka being my business partner, sometimes we do walk into a house and we don't expect to pull off of the top of it or the back of it, but it has happened. Like, when it's going over to the house, like, it's scary, and then I just walk away and be like, you know what, I'm not dealing with it, I'm not even gonna call, I'm just gonna leave. I might do a Facebook Live, the whole back of our house is gone today.
One thing we're dealing with now with contractors, and you're probably seeing it a lot more in your deals. It was never new, it just the title companies really wasn't enforcing it. It's your sworn waivers and your lien waivers and everything, because so many people are doing flips or renovations to sell their homes. And you'll be surprised how many investors have no clue what that is. They had all this work done maybe by unlicensed contractors. So if you're gonna flip, I got a client now has a property, we put it on the market. Some of these cities are actually going on Zillow, and they're like, oh, updated, what? Updated kitchen? And they're like, well, we don't see any permits on this property. So now they're coming back and they're saying, well, you gotta pull permits on everything. Not only do you gotta pull permits on your electrical and plumbing, you gotta take the drywall out because we gotta see it. Now, how much is that gonna cost you to rip it all out and put it back up?
And the taxes in certain areas, so we just had that too. The cap comes off while you own the property, and now your taxes went up. That was Southfield, so you know, certain areas are gonna have like,
Just in cheap to start with.
yeah.
So with the interest rates going up and all the changes that are coming on, potentially price, coming down or just lowering, how has your deals changed looking forward as compared to 2 years ago? In other words, what deals 2 years ago did you deal that you will not go forward doing those kinds of deals for the next year? Various
The
ARVs.
rates don't impact me because
Well,
wherever the
these impacts,
market,
the end buyer comes in and has to get a mortgage, right? So they're gonna be impacted on your outbound.
I'm glad you asked that. My investor has 2 flips in Oak Park. He sent me the Free Press article about the mortgage companies laying off all of these lenders. I'm like, dude, most of that was refinance business that they overhired for in the first place. Oak Park last year, we probably had 18 buyers for every home. Now we probably got 11. How many people do you need to sell a house to, right? So when rates go up, you're just knocking a few buyers out of the box. Until we get a huge increase in inventory, those small rate hikes aren't gonna be that bad for us, for sellers. And in that price range too, it depends on what price range. I like to flip properties between maybe like that 130 up to maybe like 250. You go up a point on your rates, that market is not really gonna fall apart, right? You're just gonna knock out maybe 10-15% of the buyers. But again, we got 10 or 15 buyers for every home. Now, if you're going up in a higher price point, then you have to start thinking it over a little bit. But yeah, if the market softens up a little bit, I'll just pay a little bit less for the property. So I'm following the market down or up either way.
I think my input for that would be, I like to stay just traditionally like under 110, 120,000. Like for me, when I'm looking at stuff, that's what I'm aiming for. So I don't think much would change. I'm talking about for acquisition and cost all in.
Right.
And so, yeah,
110.
yeah.
So
that's
you're always gonna
for
need
the
somewhere to
whole
stay, right? Everybody's gonna need, like Reggie said, we have a housing shortage.
Right.
So people we have to have somewhere to live, right?
Well,
And
the
then
shortage-
the other thing too,
I'm not sure that's true as of yesterday.
Yeah.
the other thing is realtors, we gotta keep in mind, if I was getting 4% and I still haven't found a home, but I'm out here bidding 20,000 with an appraisal guarantee. So what happens? Maybe I can't give 20,000 now, maybe I give 5,000 because my rate went up, I got some more upfront costs. Some of those buyers are just gonna go away from paying 20,000 above asking. So that's probably gonna soften up first before we start seeing prices just drop.
But you'll be fine if you remember, keep your ARV
They're
low.
low, set aside.
Yeah, so you will never even consider the 20,000 above ask. If you get that, that's great. You never consider that when you're purchasing the property.
Now, and we missed out on deals like that too, because when we were talking about Janita, when her ARV projection would be a lot higher because I'm more conservative, and the numbers just end up working for her. And I'm like, no, I just wouldn't do the deal. Somebody else, I've seen other investors do deals I wouldn't touch because my numbers didn't tell me. I didn't see it and they did. But I was able to sleep it.
That's what I've seen a lot of people do. They've done ARV, 65% ARV, and they've marched it up to 70% ARV
Yeah.
in an accelerated market. And now we're gonna get into a decelerating market. So you're gonna back that down to back to 65 ARV, or you have some of that.
But that's you trying to force the public piece, right? Because if it doesn't work the first time, then it's probably not a good deal.
Right, but in an accelerated market, they were doing that. I don't know how smart it was, and now it's gonna kind of moderate or turn.
I think it's gonna go down, it's just gonna accelerate a little more slowly.
But
Yeah.
still,
Not gonna accelerate at the same rate, but it's still gonna be
Right.
appreciating. So, yes, I agree with you.
You know what?
that's why I just wonder how you guys change the profile.
We discussed that at the beginning. You look at how our opinions changed a little bit.
Yeah.
From the first podcast that we did on that topic
Mhm.
until the one we just did maybe a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I think I changed. I think Reggie stayed the same. I think Coach stayed the same. I changed.
How do you change?
Because I thought that the market, I thought like how you're thinking right now. But then I wasn't taking into consideration how many people don't have homes or need homes.
Right.
You know? So when you take that into consideration, it's a no-brainer.
I think costing is probably something that, a lot of people weren't taking into consideration where you're talking about like the end game. But
Well,
just
the
point out
whole-
that like the increase in price of supplies, I think it's gonna actually have more of an effect on the flip than the
Something
market after.
Two, if you guys, when you're running your numbers, look at, like where it was originally listed at and then where it sold at. So for instance, if a house was listed at 180 and then it sold at 220, I wouldn't base even though you're gonna have a comp now at 220, I wouldn't base my numbers at the 220, I would base it at the original list price. Like I wouldn't base it on that higher number because we know that that number was like that because they probably gave an appraisal guarantee or paid cash for the property. So yes, it's still gonna be a comp for the area once it closes so that you can get an appraisal. But if you wanna account for like the shift downward, I would stick it like the original list price.
Do any of you own Airbnbs or are exploring that territory?
I considered it, but I haven't gotten to it yet. I know some people that's doing it and they're successful. Elijah has some listing the guy did, what was that, like Auburn Street or something like that?
Yeah.
This is like a $40,000 neighborhood, and he had it listed Airbnb. So you'll be surprised where some of the Airbnbs are located. But I haven't done it, but I heard the returns are great, way better than renting the property.
I think we have a few Airbnbs. I mean, they're in areas that I wouldn't stay. People are in.
People are staying, like, what's the
Yeah.
area that's the best one for like Airbnb?
One investor said the best place is near a hospital that does any type of organ transplants,
Oh,
near colleges. Those are the best ones. Or of course, like any airports
what did you say?
or beaches or something, of course. But those can be more expensive to
Yeah,
buy.
higher than that.
Yeah.
Acquired.
Okay, kids, it's 12:15.
All right.
This up. We got
It's a wrap.
TSARE Takeover.
Yeah, just go to there's something about real estate. Go on YouTube and all of our websites.
Thank you guys.
So, thank you everyone for coming. We have a little bit, a last segment. I know some people have some wants and needs they wanted to talk about. We're gonna start with you, Justin. I know you had some want and need.
So,
Two things.
we're about to start financing, funding and putting together